This is Starcast, the official podcast of your Billingham Stars. Watch and listen for the very latest news and interviews from within the Big Red Machine.
Hello and welcome to Starcast. This is episode 23 of the official podcast of the Billingham Town Council sponsored Billingham Stars. You're very welcome to join us here. Coming to the end of January, things are moving on towards a season conclusion at a rate of knots. We have Carol, we have Jono, we have plenty to talk about. Evening to you both. All well this weekend, this week, this Tuesday. Hello.
Hi.
That's a great
Hello,
start.
Yeah, everything's well.
All good. Before we get into the Sheffield game, a couple of bits of news we'll talk about. We'll talk about Sheffield. We've got a guest in the middle segment, which we'll mention very later, and then we'll talk about the game to come, the resulting tables from across the NIHL North 1, and we'll see if there's any other business to talk about as well. But first, some bits of news over the last day or so. Great Britain under-18 women have won the gold medal at their World Championship tournament in Riga. They ran the table 5 wins from 5 to get promotion to Division 1 for next season. Some fantastic performances. They had the best goalie of the tournament. They had the best forward of the tournament. Scored, I think it was 6 or 7 goals a game average, only conceded a handful. So 5 wins out of 5. And well done to coach Sean Alderson, Jenny Hare, assistant coach, Reg Wilcox, assistant coach, and Steph Towns as well, the team manager. So great stuff, some local Northeast interest as well. So well done to everybody at the GB under-18 women. More closer to home in our division, just at tea time there, them up the road, the Whitley Warriors announced they had amicably parted company with Patrick Grigors. What did they say? By mutual consent and with immediate effect. But yeah, so Paddy, as we know, is up in Scotland. His work situation's changed. I know the Warriors fans have been commenting the last few weeks where he hasn't been able to make games. So with it being the transfer deadline on Friday, the Warriors and Paddy have come to a decision to let him go and try and find a team to finish the season in Scotland. Some of the comments, we said it would happen, and they kind of came around to our way of thinking. They saw what he could do for the Carol, and they will miss him at the back end of the Warriors D.
They almost certainly will. I know they've had to cope without him for plenty of games this season, but that's clearly not Paddy's fault. Unfortunately, the lad doesn't make a living out of ice hockey. He makes a living out of a proper job, and that has to take precedence, unfortunately. I think it's unfortunate on both sides, really, because Paddy deserves a game somewhere, and I hope he gets picked up. And on the other side, Whitley was short enough on D without losing a quality D man like Paddy. So a shame for both sides, really. We wait to see if Whitley can fill that hole before Friday. Maybe they've already got somebody in the wings, I don't know. But if I was a Whitley fan, I would not, contrary to some of the comments I've seen, be asking for a forward. I would definitely be hoping that they're going to sign another D-man because they've got nobody at the back. So you'd hope that the powers that be on Tyneside have got their eye on somebody to bring in before Friday.
Yeah. And John, we've talked about Paddy enough. Obviously, when he left us in the summer, when he signed for Whitley, we knew the Warriors fans would come round to seeing what a player he was, and we wish he, as Carol says, wish him well. Get to club north of the border so he can play some hockey for the rest of the year.
Absolutely. I think I said at the time that they would probably need him more than he needed them, and it was true with the case. But as Carol said, his life comes way before a hobby, and the lad needs to work. And a team up there would be daft not to pick him up if works allows him to continue to play. Sad for him because he's good enough to be playing at this level, but maybe he's just once a star, always a star.
100%.
He never looks right in that uniform, did he?
Burgundy was just wasn't his thing.
It wasn't his colour.
Oh, they call it maroon, don't they? It's not burgundy, it's maroon, sorry. Other news from our division, another team losing a D that they can't really afford to lose. Deeside Dragons, Ollie Howells has left. No news of where he's headed yet that I've seen. But he was a strong, young 18, 19-year-old D-man, but obviously played all season for them and leaves them shorter again on defence. And Sheffield, there was a thing a few weeks ago in Sheffield talked about the link up with the Sheffield Academy into the Steel Dogs, into the Steelers, and that they're trying to replicate what the Steel Dogs did a few years ago in the old Sheffield kind of team. And they've brought back Jacob Brammer, who was on two-way with the Steel Dogs and Hull Jets in our division. Well, they've brought him back into the Sheffield fold completely, and he's on a two-way with the Steel Dogs and the Sheffield Scimitars. So the Sims are tooling up for a run towards the playoffs, Jono?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the table there. Granted, they have played 3 to 4 more games than everybody else. But Matty Blow is a great netminder. Brammer's a great player. I mean, putting them with likes of Pelling and Danther, I mean, they'll have a strong chance if the fixtures fall their way. They can get that full roster out. I know we'll cover it a little bit, that they didn't travel so well Sunday. But if they travel well and they can cause some upsets along the way, they can steal that 8th spot just looking at that table.
Yeah. Any thoughts on those two bits, Carol, from your side?
No, I think he hit the nail on the head with Mr. Howells. Deeside can ill afford to lose D-men. That is their Achilles heel, is their defence, and now they're another place short.
Yeah.
Again, you'd hope that maybe they've got some irons in the fire to plug a few holes there, but who knows? We wait to see.
Yeah, indeed, we wait to see. And obviously, as we said, the transfer deadline is this Friday, the 31st of January. So we'll keep an eye on club feeds through the week to see if anybody adds or subtracts for the run in and see how things go. Just one game for the Billingham Stars this past weekend. Return to league action, and it was those Sheffield Scimitars, as Jono said, travelling into the Forum on Sunday. Travelling with 11 skaters and 2 goalies, which wasn't a good sight to see. I don't think we'll take very long on this one, but the main figures: a win for your Billingham Stars, 9 goals to 1. The shots on goal were 76 to 12. So that kind of tells you where the action was. Goals in this one for your Billingham Stars were mentioned last week. We mentioned them each week. Ian Brown in the 4th minute, opening and scoring his 48th league goal, his 50th goal in all competitions this season. So fantastic to see that from Ian. Then Michael Elder made it 2-0. Joe Matthewman for Sheffield pulled one back, nice shot, bar down in the 13th minute. That was 2-1, end of first. And then after that, Billingham kind of switched back on and did what they've done to teams up and down the league this season, just scoring goals in bunches. Michael Elder again, James Moss, Roland Grittans, Mikey completed a hat-trick, Callum Wilkinson, Ian Brown with his 49th league goal, and then Rowley, anything that Matthewman can do, Rowley can do better. Bar down, kills a water bottle, and that was 9-1, and that's all she wrote. Carol, we said in post-game with Mikey and Fozzie, when you say that the opposition roll in with 11 plus 2, you know it's not going to be a classic, and kind of so approved, but Billingham just had to be professional and get the 3 points, which is what we did.
Yeah, it was. That's the only thing that we're going to be able to say about that game is we've got 3 points out of it. When a team that's already bottom of the league show up with 11 skaters, you fear quite badly for how that game's going to roll out. And unfortunately for Sheffield, it was never going to go anywhere other than hiding. And the shots on goal do tell a story. Nick Winters had a really odd game in the Sheffield net, in that he was an octopus at times and catching everything. And second period, I think he faced 33 shots or something absolutely ridiculous like that. And then he'd let the odd really soft one past him. And so it was a odd game to watch because it was, you knew the result before the puck had dropped. It was always just going to be a case of how many. And I'll say it again. I know some fans of other teams don't agree with me, but I don't like watching games like that. It's not a competition. It's basically shooting practice, and that's not really what anybody. I don't think anybody wants to watch anyway. You want to see some competition.
Yeah, and Jono, as Carol said, the result. Obviously, we had to be professional and get the job done, but the result was kind of known once you saw the lineups. And Nick Winters aside, it could have been a cricket score.
Yeah, I think I jokingly said it could have been 20 last week, and I think on another day or a non-Nick Winters day, it could have certainly been more than 20. I think it was 76, 75 shots that we had. So it could have been a crazy amount of goals. I'm glad it wasn't, because it's not what the league needs. You always every now and then get your whipping boys, but I don't even know where to steer. I think we just talk about some of the nice goals that we scored. Good to see Jacob back in the pipes after a while, getting some ice time, getting some minutes into him. But other than that, professional job, got the job done, and on to the next one, which is kind of what it's all about at this time of the year.
Yeah. And again, when I'd given the rundown of the goals, Ian, 49 league goals, 51 all competitions. That was the 26th league game. He's played 25 of them. So it's 49 goals in 25 league games. That's not bad, Carol, is it? I mean, push comes to shove, that's not bad.
We mentioned this last week. How many goals did Rowley get last season? Was it 49?
49 he finished on, yeah.
Yeah, it's not even February yet. I think we're kind of past trying to find ways to describe the season that Ian's having. So let's just leave it at let's hope it continues, and we keep having to try and find words to describe him every week.
Yeah, he did that. He added a couple of helpers as well, and quietly Chris Sykes, 4 helpers in the game, 48 assists. It's stupid to say Sykes has been kind of in the shadows but he's putting up the huge numbers again, Jono, and as we said, the road to 1,080.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we jokingly said to him as he gets into his later years. I mean, if you get a young whippersnapper, you just pass the puck over and they'll do all the damage for you. Believe it or not, him and Ian Brown have 72 points each this year, and Ian's got 49 goals, so it just tells it. And Chris Sykes is half that behind him in goals wise, so it just shows you the type of seasons that they have, and they're on the same line. Some of Sykes' passing was outrageous on Sunday, to be fair. Some of the passes and some of the layoffs he was doing was just absolutely incredible, setting up Mikey Elder and Chris and for Ian for the goals that they scored. Just tremendous to watch. He's kind of known that he's not the guy to be putting the pucks in the net now. He is getting a bit older. The legs aren't what they used to be, but he's certainly got guys on the line with him who can do that, and he's using that to his advantage.
Yeah. But yeah, as Jono says, some very nice goals. Possibly passing more than we would have done in ordinary circumstances to kind of, I don't know, keep the score down. A fair thing to say. I don't know if that's the right thing, but certainly the passing. And we've said it before, in that offensive zone at the Forum, it's like a postage stamp. And some of the passing that the Stars managed to do, whether it's on a power play or whether it's on just a normal offense. There was a period about 3 or 4 minutes. It was just complete keep away. We managed to change a complete line where Sheffield was still penned into the zone, and that's kind of what we need, like home advantage. Obviously, the guys train in that ring every week and they know what it's like. And said it before, you kind of almost want to play the Harlem Globetrotters theme tune when they're passing it around like that, because it is just cycling it around, they're passing it through. Literally threading the needle, and it's fantastic to see. So
I think it was the second period, and it was the third line, because I was watching the clock and to hear how long the shift was. The shift was just over 2 minutes. It's about 2 minutes 5 seconds, and it was Lucas, Wilco and Shuggy, and they dominated the zone for over 2 minutes. The puck didn't leave the zone once. And that was our third line doing that. I know Sheffield would have been knackered by this point in the second, but it's like, if this is our third line doing this, this is just awesome to watch. Because I know it was only Sheffield, and it's horrible to say, but they would have grown a lot of confidence and learned a lot about each other just from that moment, just from those 2 minutes in that zone, moving the puck around. They would have took a lot from that from each other, knowing that when they go into other games, they've got the confidence to do it again to the better teams.
Yeah. No, it was job done. I see some very nice goals. Back on the bus in the league action. I say keep the points going. The run in. As I say, the games are running out very quickly, and it'll be here before you know it. So, job done. We move on. We'll talk about next week later in the show, but we'll kind of leave it there now. I think what we'll do is we'll take a break and we'll come back with another guest here on Starcast, another voice from predominantly the south of the NIHL structure, but it's a guy who covers a hell of a lot more. You'll find out about that more at the other side of this break. We'll join you very soon again for the next section. This is your official podcast of your Billingham Town Council, Billingham Stars. This is Starcast. Welcome back to Starcast, and our second segment of this week's episode is our interview segment. We're delighted to welcome aboard how to describe a blogger, a podcaster, a broadcaster, a commentator, a fan of a German club and a British club, and just a hockey fan all around. It's great to have from Banners on the Wall. It's Anthony Russell. Anthony, welcome to Starcast. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello. Greetings to all in the north. I was checking something today. I'm actually closer to Le Havre in France than the three of you. That's how far south I am.
Well, bonjour, bienvenue, and nice to have you.
I bet their weather's better than ours and all.
It is just a bit. But no, it's great to have you on, Anthony. And as I said in the intro, a man of many hockey talents and hockey roles. And do you want to, for those who don't know, do you want to give us a little intro of how you became a hockey fan and your journey in what became Banners on the Wall?
The truncated version, because I think, where are we now? I've been watching hockey for just over 20 years at this point. So my university degree is in German. So I ended up living in Germany. I lived in Rostock on the Baltic coast for a little while, and I really remember it very clearly because at the top of my road by the tram stop was a big advertising hoarding. In Germany, you kind of get these sort of big sort of cylinder kind of things that have sort of posters for like the circus, music concerts, and there was one that said "Neue Futterzeit," on Chile. That was the advert for the Rostock Piranhas, German, sorry. Even though it's piranhas, it's piranhas to me. And that was the start of a 2-decade-long meandering wander into ice hockey as a sport and a thing that has kind of taken me on this very bizarre journey. So I ended up back in Britain because my time in Germany came to an end. I was there for one academic year, and I was living at university in Southampton, and I was like, oh, I want to go watch some ice hockey. And because I'm an idiot and didn't bother to look at the map and realise that Gosport was closer than Basingstoke, I took a bus to a bus, watched Basingstoke for the first time in about November of 2005, and stuck with the Basingstoke Bison through thick and at the moment very, very thin. And through that time, I've ended up doing a bunch of different things. Banners on the Wall was born in March of 2011. The club had a very strange thing at the time where they decided that they'd get Grant King, not that Grant King who's involved with Ice Hockey UK and and England Ice Hockey, but Grant King, photographer, who was the club photographer at the time. They're asking him to do the club Twitter updates whilst he was taking photographs of the game, which is very British hockey, asking people to do three things at the same time. But So they asked me to do it because I was tweeting away being a sarcastic little sausage on Twitter anyway, and then realised that actually I kind of want a creative outlet. And I stuck a tweet out back end of February, beginning of March 2011, saying, if I wrote about hockey, would anybody read it? And a few people said, yeah, why not? And yeah, here we are. Nearly 14 years later. Banners on the Wall will be 14 in March. A couple of weeks ago was the 1,000th article published on Banners on the Wall. I've not written all 1,000 myself, but I've definitely written over 1,000 articles because I've done programme bits in the past for Blackburn, Basingstoke. I still currently write for the programme for the Romford Raiders. I've written for the Australian League. I've written for a fanzine in Berlin. I really like writing. I think is probably the short version, but it's obviously kind of spun out into doing things in a bunch of different creative. All kind of covers everything across the whole NIHL, and I just like talking about hobbies. It's a really good and a great way to relax, supposedly. So I'm told. I'm pretty sure it's ever relaxing.
Yeah, I mean, it's Banners. As I've spoken to you many times over the years, and Banners is a fantastic outlet for. It started off as a Basingstoke focus, but obviously as you've become more in kind of involved in the British hockey scene, it's kind of taken a wider view, and these past 2 years, it's changed again. Obviously, with Basingstoke going into hibernation, as it were, Banners has changed into now a kind of completely free roaming kind of product and outlet. So how's the last couple of years been for yourself as a Banners writer or a hockey fan, or whatever you want to describe your last couple of years as?
Awkward pest, if you ask Carol's husband. Yeah, it's been weird. I think is probably the best way to describe it, because you generally don't get involved in hockey without some connection to somewhere. So losing the Bison was really hard, especially for the fact that I think for a lot of people, and certainly for me, I said it when I was interviewed on BBC South today about it. It was entirely an avoidable situation. The point that we're at now, and I really was confused about where I was going to go, what hockey I'd be watching, and then it ended up the first game was actually back in Basingstoke. So my first game of 23-24 was the Basingstoke Buffalo, who of course now are, like all of us, as I say about the Bison, and waiting around the corner just out of sight, waiting for the moment to come back, kind of thing. So it's been weird. It's definitely been weird, because there just isn't that connection there of cheering for your team, for everything I've done, even though the fact that the Banners on the Wall kind of content started migrating to being more NIHL centric necessarily than Basingstoke centric, or at least the writing was very Basingstoke centric, and stuff like What's Current Stream, which originally started being on Periscope, if you remember Periscope, was a very NIHL centric. And to not have that connection to a particular team, to not necessarily want someone to win per se in that sense, is very odd. It's very hard, because there's always that feels like there's that little bit missing. But getting involved in doing different things in different ways, it's allowed me to kind of experience hockey in a very different way, because I can see the eccentricities, the different things that people go through in different places. And going to your team, going to one team is great. And I've never been in a position to go to lots of away games, unfortunately, just because of, one, I'm that extra bit further away. I'm in Southampton, so I've always been 45 minutes south of Basingstoke, so it's pretty much nearly an hour on top of every other journey. But also as well, I've got a wife and a son, and the agreement is that I don't go gallivanting off around the country at the drop of a hat purely for ice hockey. I have to balance the two parts of my life. So, but not having the Bison around has been a blessing in some ways. The huge thing, of course, is I lack my team, but I've gotten to go to places that I never would have gone before. I never would have gone to Oxford because the City Stars were never in the same league as Basingstoke. I wouldn't have gone and seen things like the Guildford Phoenix, or I wouldn't have had the opportunity to commentate on the Elite League, for example, which I've managed to do over the last couple of years for the Guildford Flames, because I'd be in Basingstoke doing things for the Bison. So whilst some people do not believe in such things, I very much do believe in a higher power, and he is opened doors. I don't believe that God kind of picks people up and moves people around like chess pieces. I believe God opens doors and windows, and it's your responsibility to either walk through them or jump out of them as you see fit. So I've been fortunate that a lot of stuff has come my way. I've had a lot of really, really good opportunities to do things, broaden my skill base, and write about, talk with some really awesome people from across British hockey, and that includes guys, includes guys like yourself, because I've been around doing what I've done now for like a decade and a half, and I've seen the scene, as it were, in sort of British hockey fan media, blogs, podcasts. I've seen it kind of wax and wane because COVID was a thing. But it's been really cool. The experience of being able to kind of see people take their creative endeavor and do something is something I feel really, really cool. And to have, as I have had happen to me on a couple of occasions, people say, well, I've seen you do it. I love what you do. I want to try doing it myself. That's been quite a nice thing to kind of hear people say. I don't do this. I do this because it's my hobby and I love doing it. I do it to an audience of none. If that was the way, I'm just fortunate people give some credence to what I say, even if I do get on their nerves from time to time.
Yeah. Carol, do you want to pick up?
Yeah, you touched on it there about having the opportunity to commentate with the Guildford Flames, and people may already know your voice from commentating on playoffs. I just wondered how you'd found that experience over the last few years. It's obviously added to your hockey repertoire. And weirdly, the Guildford Flames thing, small world that it is ended up you standing in for two guys who did the panto in Billingham. Odd. But I just wondered if you could share with us your experience of being able to commentate for the last few years anyway.
It's a very, very different way of watching hockey, because the big issue is that it's very, very performative. And you guys, having met Luke and Elliot, they are by definition performers, right? That is their job. Whereas I am the gentleman amateur at a lot of things. But commentary is a really, really interesting way to focus your mind as to how you watch hockey, because not only are you watching it really, really intently and picking up on bits and pieces, but you've got to articulate it really, really quickly. And it does turn into a little bit of catchphrase. It is a little bit say what you see at times, and it kind of depends on the role, because I've done for the commentary weekends for the NIHL, I've generally been kind of the colour commentator, providing a bit of analysis, a bit of context, alongside George Perrott for Drop the Puck, who's generally done the play-by-play when I've been there. Guildford, I'm by myself. I do both at the same time, which is very, very hard. I think the thing I've always tried to do is just be prepared. I think on that front, looking at the names, looking at the stats, asking people if I'm unsure about pronunciations. It is for the many things that people bemoan about the Elite League, and there are things the Elite League don't do right. One of the things they do correctly is that they have a pronunciation guide for every single team. So when I didn't know how to pronounce somebody's name, I had a link that I could click on, and I could listen to the person saying their own name, so I could then phonetically write it out onto my notes so that I did call them the right thing. Because ultimately in this sort of situation, especially with imports, like their family might be watching from somewhere, and the worst thing I think you can do is to not pay the respect to the person who's out there doing the job. And that's irrespective. So in the space of about a couple of months in the 23-24 season, I commentated for the Flames, and I worked with the Guildford Phoenix to live commentate on their game against Haringey over Twitter. And it was essentially whoever won that game is going to win South 2. And I can honestly say I put the same amount of effort into both of those encounters, irrespective of anything I got back out of it, because all hockey players are better than me at hockey, right? I can probably write about hockey better than I think most people I've met, and that's not to blow my own trumpet hard, but I do it all the time. I'm decent at it now, and so if somebody's going to be out there doing the thing I can do, but it's my job to tell you about it, I'm going to put in every ounce of effort to make them look as good as they are and that much better than I would be at doing it. It's a lot of fun. It's quite tiring. I won't lie, I'm quite tired by the end of it, but there's a real kind of satisfaction of knowing that generally you know if you've done a good job, I think, because you will know in your head where you might have said the wrong thing. So it's a lot of fun. I think more teams should do it. I think more teams should kind of actively trying to do something with it, even if it's radio commentary, even if it's even if it's kind of doing bits and pieces on. Certainly, something I used to do for Basingstoke. Spaces on Twitter is a good, quick, easy, free thing that all clubs can use, and just stick something out during the period break, like just a couple of moments of just like, second period's finished here at the Forum. It's now 5-4 to the Stars. Here's the goals. Here's how they were scored. Here are the big incidents. Check back with us at the end of the game for a roundup kind of thing. Any team can do that, and you can find a volunteer that is, sensible enough, smart enough, technologically adept enough, and won't swear to do that. So, having had the opportunity to do it and had the opportunity to see what can be done, I think my thing is more teams need to be better at doing it, because sell the game more, I think, is the lesson to British hockey.
Yeah. I mean, it's just interesting you mentioned the difference between audio and video commentary, because I noticed is watching NHL games, because a lot of their radio guys commentate as though it was video and vice versa. So you mentioned doing it on just audio and then doing the video. To say what you say, it's probably harder doing it on TV, because on audio, at least people aren't watching. They don't know that if you're right or wrong, sort of thing. So you can go your own pace. Whereas doing it on video, people can see what you're watching. So if you say something wrong, they'll be on you. Because people aren't shy to come forward and say if you do something wrong, as we know.
But the best thing to do is to lean into your mistakes, I think. If I make a mistake, and I know that I've made a mistake, hold your hands up. Getting things wrong is not a disaster. Disagreeing is not a disaster. The only way these things are bad is if you are so clung to what you think is right, even if you've been proven that it's wrong. Case in point, Guildford's game with Glasgow that I did back in November time. Tyson McClellan called him Tyler McClellan for 40 minutes after the game. And literally he scores like 2 minutes from the end of the game. And I pick up my notes and I look and I see his name just to double check it. And I said, and the first thing that goes through my head is, oh, nuts! I've called this guy the wrong first name for 2.5 periods, and I'm finally getting it right, kind of thing. And after the game, I just stuck out a tweet, just going like, "Would have been nice if I'd bothered to, read my own notes," kind of thing. But because the thing I think with a lot of people is that ultimately they will point things out, and social media is a really, really bad medium for having a good adult discussion, because nuance gets lost in 160, 240 characters. But you can still, if you make a mistake, just go, I made a mistake. And actually, a lot of times, 99 people out of 100 will be reasonable enough to go, yeah, all right, cool. Thanks for apologizing. And that's kind of where I leave it. I'm not interested in people being perfect, because people can't be perfect. That's impossible. It's when people make mistakes that are lazy, or they don't make the effort, don't do the research. When they say things that are kind of come from a place of not so much not so much like genuine ignorance, because no one knows everything, right? But if you've been told something and you still make the same mistake again and again and again because you are too pig-headed or too lazy to listen to that feedback, that's where you lose out. The reason why I think I've gotten better at commentary is I go back, I listen to myself again. I don't like that. I did like that. I take the reasonable constructive feedback of other people. I try to learn from it and I move on. I'm too old. I'm too old to have arguments about, somebody said to me, your vocal tone's quite high. And it's like, yeah, well, I'm 40 years old. I ain't going to change that now. I can't turn into Paul Robeson now. Like, that ship has sailed me by. Like, I can't do Old Man River justice. I'm sorry. This is my voice. This is how I sound like. I'm less worried about my vocal tone, is what I'm saying of value, because that's the more important bit there. If you want me to do commentary as Mickey Mouse, I'm sure I can try. Ho-ho, Michael Walden, ho-ho!
And the bit about commentating on your own as well, that's a different kind of skill as well, because you don't have anybody to bounce off, so it's a different kind of thing. We'll maybe talk about that later. Jono, we'll bring you in and talk about the old North v South situation.
Yeah. For me, it's like, obviously you commentate on the North and South game at Coventry. I know that you feel it's a big part of the weekend, even though for me it's a side act for myself, just because of what time the face is off. But what they've done this year, they brought in that playoff weekend. Do you think that will have effect on that league game?
Yeah, by sheer definition of the fact that you'll have had the massive emotional outpouring of everything the week before. I get why they're doing it. And actually, I think probably one of the things, the big elephant in the room for the Elite League playoff weekend is that their extra game on the Sunday has no value to it at all. It's just a thing that happens. There's no incentive to even play it, let alone to win it. I think there's something to be said, because ultimately in British hockey, for whether you like it or you don't, the league title means more than the playoffs. It just does. I'm sorry. The playoffs itself is kind of a side act, I think, Jono, to use your words back. But so I think the idea of having the league champions go up against each other at that weekend is it makes sense. Does it make sense in the fact that they've got the Steel City Showdown the week before? I think there's a legitimate argument. You can say it is a bit of a strange one to do, but I still think it's a good game. I still think it's a useful thing to do. I think the context now does change as a result. And we can get into discussions about Billingham's appearance in it last year. But I still think that there's really good value to it as a game, because ultimately, if British hockey is going to continue to put the emphasis on the best team being the team that wins its regular season title, then having at Division 1 level the two best teams across the entirety of the season go head to head and be guaranteed of that head to head, I personally think that's a good thing.
Does the league need to give that game a bit more respect and give it a better, maybe just a better face-off time, a 2 p.m. slot, and move the main final closer to tea time? Does it deserve just that little bit more? Like you say, you've got teams travelling up a long way to travel down on the day, if that's the way it has to work. Like I say, our game last year was 3 weeks after our final game, which is a joke in itself. But I just think a better face-off time, give it that more of a, not prime time, because obviously you've got your main final after, but just give it a bit more than what it deserves.
Well, I think so. I think the time thing's a bit of a misnomer. I don't think it's disrespectful to do that. I think that's just a question of logistics of how they've planned to do the weekend. Now, this weekend, this upcoming weekend in 2025, the Coventry weekend's on Easter. There is nothing on the Monday. It's bank holiday. Why could they not have shifted it backwards to make things easier? Because let's face it, and I'm sorry, because I don't believe in luck, right? So I'm going to say it irrespective. There is a very, very high chance the Billingham Stars will make that game at Coventry, okay? So making it easier for people to come down would be cool. I think every Solway fan that attended their back-to-back finals would probably tell you to stop moaning about it. But I don't see why they can't shuffle things around to make things that easier when there is a bank holiday the next day. I don't necessarily disagree, but I don't think it's disrespectful. I think that's not the correct choice of words I'd use in that sense, because I think Division 1 getting that showpiece at the weekend for the league above them, for that step of quality above them, that being, that is a lot of times that people will have ever seen Division 1 hockey. And that for me is mind-boggling in the first place. But the four of us are obsessives, right? We'll go and watch anything, anywhere, anytime. If we were on holiday somewhere in Spain and there just happened to be an ice rink down the road with a game being played, we'd probably go, right? But like people said to me last year, it's like the amount of things like people said about what they saw of Billingham last season from that one game. Yeah, they're pretty good. And like picking out different players and things like that, people still bring up James Moss's performance to me now from Coventry last year. So I wouldn't think too much about the time per se in that sense, because I think it's better on focusing on. I think it's a better thing to kind of focus on Division 1 getting what it deserves, which is a bit of a showcase to people whose regular hockey is the level above.
Yeah. I mean, looking at the South One, obviously you watch a lot of South One hockey. looking from afar, you kind of look at the league table and it's kind of broken into maybe three sections. When you're watching the games, does that kind of reflect on the games that you watch?
Yeah, I think there's definitely there is a marked difference, and of course you guys got into this with Ben Hyde of Zero Pucks Given last week, and his sole focus for the most part is South One, right? So it's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? Because Ben has the ear of 9 out of 10 coaches. Hi, Lucas. But I've arguably been to more games in different places than he has this year, so we both get this really interesting perspective on it. Yeah, there is a marked difference between when you watch us, because I saw Solent versus Slough back in October, and Slough are terrifyingly good. They are really, really good. And I hate to say it, I think they'd probably give you a run for your money if they were in North One. And then I think I went. Where did I go? I've been to Oxford a couple of times this year, and I saw Oxford. So Oxford versus Romford, and I've seen Oxford versus Swindon, and there is a marked difference between those top end sides and those sides that are kind of in the middle and kind of sort of the bottom tier. Oxford had a load of circumstances in the summer that kind of made things very, very tough, and Mark Saunders has tried to make the best of a bad hand dealt him. But yeah, there is that Streatham, Chelmsford, Slough, Solent top four is the top four for a reason. That gap is big for a reason. It is not a fluke. I watched Solent beat Streatham in Gosport, and Aaron Taylor is ridiculous on his day. I've seen him have some very bad nights as well, but when he is on, and it is scary to watch those top end netminders when you think it's sort of Danny Milton, Jordan Lawday, Matt Smittle, and Aaron Taylor as kind of a top four net minding kind of square at the top of South One. I think that's probably where the South probably have a bit of a nod over the North, if I'm honest.
So how do you think it's going to shake out at the top of South One? Because those four teams, like I say, are kind of, and the fixtures seem to be fairly good, as in that somebody's playing one of the other four over the next few weeks, so the fixtures are going to kind of help decide that. But where do you think the South One title's headed?
Oh, back to the high road. I still think Streatham are going to win it. I think we get Streatham Billingham 2.0 in Coventry. The issue, I think, is mostly off the back of that cup semi-final weekend, because I think what will have happened, particularly for Streatham, given the nature of how they lost, because that is bad, and that sort of thing has not happened to for quite some time. And what you have done, it's a bit like the bit in The Simpsons where somebody hits Nelson that you made me bleed my own blood, and I think that's what we're going to see out of Streatham now. It is going to be no excuses, no discussions. We are going all in for the absolute rest of it. Don't get me wrong, I actually don't think it's a terrible thing that they did lose the cup semi-final for the league as an entity, because you've got a complete reverse of last year, because you had the same four semi-finalists and now the alternate final. So I think having Solent versus Chelmsford, I think, is really good, because I think there's a bunch of different stories in there as well. Solent have a history of getting to over the last couple of years, and just pre-COVID, of always being the bridesmaid, never being the bride. Chelmsford were the team that are financially quite heavy hitters in South One, and maybe have not gotten quite sort of the reward for what they thought they might have done. They kept getting close and then falling away and not getting there. So but finally winning the playoffs last year and beating Solent in the final to do that too. So there's plenty of good in that happening. But for me, Streatham are still the best side with the better players, and it's a mentality thing too. Because it sounds really silly, but sometimes you have to learn how to lose to learn how to win. And Slough tripping over their own feet, and Chelmsford from times will trip over their own feet. And Solent for them, the stars kind of need to align, I think, for them to kind of win. And it can 100% happen because they beat Streatham last year at playoffs. But from a league campaign perspective, the smart money would, even though I'm not a gambling man, the smart money's on Streatham to go and win the league title again. The playoffs, I ain't touching that one with a pole. That's anybody's game.
Yeah, now we'll wait and see. I mean, for Streatham, like you say, I think it's right. It's either going to kill or cure, isn't it? This cup defeat. it's either going to knock them completely, or like you say, it's going to galvanise them and they'll do a unbeaten for the rest of the year and kind of win through and do as they've done in the last three or 4 years. So we'll see how that shakes out. Carol, do you want to take Anthony back to his roots, his home roots?
Yeah, obviously, as Billingham fans, we can kind of relate what you've been going through for a few seasons, because we had the forum shut for a couple of seasons while he pulled it to bits and rebuilt it. But there's been recent news on that front. From your point of view, there appears to be light at the end of the Basingstoke tunnel. Do you want to maybe just update us on what you know?
Believe nothing till you see it. So essentially, one of the big issues for quite some time was that Planet Ice owned the rink and operated the rink. They then sold the rink as an entity and then kind of leased it back. So they were still the operators, but they weren't the owners. The council owned the freehold on the land, and essentially there was this kind of big load of nonsense where the rink was very, very clearly falling into a state of disrepair. The whole side of the rink condemned. We didn't, if you go back and watch the videos of Basingstoke winning the 2018 South 1 title, as it was then, when we still went after the collapse of the EPL, there's all the video is taken towards a side completely empty because subsidence had meant that the stands had been shut and you couldn't even put a camera over there for the most part. It was ridiculous, really. And we just got to this point where the rink desperately needed refurbishing. What's happened now is that Planet Ice have now got the operating I've got sort of the lease of the building back, so they are refurbishing it. Now they say they're going to give us updates every couple of weeks on the Planet Ice website. Remains to be seen on that front, but they have at least given updates on that. But there is a lot of work to be done, and so there is light at the end of the tunnel where the ice rink in Basingstoke will be refurbished, redone, and reopen. And that's not just about the Bison, that's about the Buffalo, that's about the junior hockey system, that's about the fantastic synchronized ice dancers, the figure skaters, and people who just wanted to have a bit of a skate around, because it wasn't just a thing for one group of people, it was a thing for a lot of groups of people. And I think it's been great to see them band together to just keep making a lot of noise that something needed to be done. We don't know when it will happen. I think we don't know what the end point is, but I think as well, I'd rather they do this right than do it quick. In that sense, I'd rather lose another year and not have the Bison, but we end up with a facility of quality rather than rats. We need to rush it and get it finished in 9 months. I don't want that. I want to be able to see people. I want the 2040 generation of Bison juniors to be able to still be playing there and not worry about the fact that they've sort of done things on the quick or on the cheap. I'd much rather it be done properly. But at some point, there will be ice back down in Basingstoke, and we can continue the post-mortem as to why we had to wait so long for that well into the future. But we will hopefully have the Bison back. What league they end up back in when they come back remains to be seen. People think they will step straight back into the National. I'm 50-50 on that feeling, if I'm 100% honest. I have no knowledge either way on that front, but we're getting there. And it's been a long time coming and should have happened a long time before. But ultimately, a lot of very, very good people are going to have back the thing that, the place to do the thing that means the most to them. And I think that's the bigger picture on that front.
Yeah. Well, we obviously wish everyone well getting the ice back in Basingstoke. It's something like, as Carol says, the experience in Billingham losing their team for a short while. Obviously, I lost when I was in Newcastle. Lost my team in Newcastle, so it's something we've all been through, and we don't wish on anybody. So we hope we get it back soon. You mentioned the national division. Obviously, that is to use your line. That is your bread and butter when you're doing your regular features. What's the kind of the score on the national division? Kind of 3 or 4 years, and it seems to have settled down. It seems to have its levels within, but the competition on a weekly basis seems to be quite strong, and the teams seem to be taking points off each other, which seems to be a good thing.
Yeah, I think that's probably the one thing that the national division does better than a lot of the other divisions in British hockey, is that, yes, over the course of a season, you have your haves and your have-nots, but on any given night, that anybody can quite literally beat anybody. If you look at the national division table at the moment, I can't remember. I think the Bees are on 21 points. But pretty much half of those points, just over half those points, they've taken against the sides like the top 3 in the table. Can't beat anybody around them, but they can beat Leeds twice at home, which is crackers. The national division, I think, doesn't get the respect I think it deserves. I think either from above or below. The folk below just kind of look at it as, some folk I speak to kind of feel it's a little bit sort of unobtainable for clubs and players. I disagree, but I would, because I kind of try to see the good in everything. But I think certainly some folk will say it's not good quality hockey, and that's nonsense. It's much more. It is, the sides are closer together. Top is closer to the bottom in that sense of its overall ability than I think there are in a lot of leagues in British hockey right now. And I think there's something that could be learned from that. It's, I mean, the fact it's now Hull. It's a 3-horse race for the title in the national division. I think that's good. I think Swindon kind of interjecting themselves into the title race a bit more this year has been a good thing. I think Romford making the cup final is great for the division. I think the fact that when it comes to the playoffs, given the round robin group format, you can see a few more bits and pieces thrown up last year. MK not making Coventry last year was a big surprise, I think, for a lot of people. So there's a few spanners that can kind of still be thrown into the works. I think it's, depending on the team, you're kind of somewhere between 14 and 16 games left of the regular season. So I definitely say if you find yourself in the neighbourhood or you find yourself at a loose end, particularly from, obviously it's a little bit of a drive for folk in Billingham, but pop down to Hull, pop down to Sheffield, pop down to you go check them out. Go check stuff out. Go up the Solway. Go see the folk up in Solway. It's a way. I drove up to Dumfries back in 2023. So right at the beginning of towards the start of season 1, you'll probably pay a bit more, but you'll get a really good game of hockey for your money. And I think, you'll be able to see some pretty talented folk on display, especially up in Dumfries, given the work that Martin and Jamie are doing up there.
Yeah. Jono, as a fellow podcaster, I know Anthony mentioned fan media earlier on. Do you want to bring that one in?
Yeah. Mine was just obviously as one of the stalwarts of fan media in this country now, Anthony. What's your recommendations? What should people be looking out for? Where should people go to find their podcasts, their blogs? What's the best ones out there for us all?
2 secs, just because I'm just waiting to see if the check is cleared. Stick to the pod. Listen to Stick to the Pod, everybody. No, I think the thing about it is to just go looking. There's a bunch of different folk out there, and the thing I'm really, really big on, and I know, I've said it to Ben, and I say it to a lot of people as well. It's not competition; it's collaboration. It's pulling each other up and pushing each other on, because somebody doing something, be like, "That's a really, really good idea. What could I do that's not the same but slightly different?" Has been really, I think, is really, really excellent. But there's so much good stuff out there, and yes, it's some stuff has been really good, but then kind of fell away because people have lives and don't get paid for doing any of this. But the thing I think is that it kind of depends what you want at that time. Like, Banners on the Wall is not the same as 4,000 and Counting, is not the same as Macca's Talk Hockey, is not the same as Slapshot Syndicate, the new podcast in Hull. I'm really enjoying those guys, and the fact that they've taken the step, I think, is really cool. It's not the same as what Ben does. It's not the same as what Jono does. It's not the same as this. Right? So I think the thing I say to people is is the thing I say about a lot of things in life. But don't be afraid to go hunt out for other bits and pieces. Like when I sort of got my dates through for Guildford, it was like, right, got to snap in, got to crack on and get in the headspace with a lot of Elite League podcasts. And I've got friends who do Elite League podcasts, but because I wasn't watching the league every week, I didn't listen every week. So it was picking up things like 3 on 3 with David Grant, who Craig and I have known for many, many years. And like A View from the Bridge, I've known Patrick Smith longer than I've known my wife. So there's so much good stuff out there. Just take what you need, I think, is probably the big thing. It's not a case of feeling like you need to, you're being disloyal by going and listening to somebody else. Would I like everybody to read and listen to what I do all the time? Yeah, of course. But I put out a piece today as we're recording this, right, about about Scottish ice hockey, because I realised that there's a lot of good time really far away I can't interact with on a daily basis. But there's lots of good stuff clearly happening because I'm reading about it and I'm seeing about it. And so the first thing I did was like, gave Jamie Thompson a nudge and said, can we sit down and do an interview about this? Because actually I think people, if I'm interested in it, I'm certain other people will be too. So let's talk about that thing. And it's like with Ben, like name me another podcast in any other sport in this country where 90% of the coaches will give their thoughts on the entire weekend's worth of games in that division. Like that doesn't happen unless you're like the BBC for the most part, who could probably get away with doing that, or a major national newspaper. Or you think about some of the stories that Nicky Watt has been able to share with people, and yeah, some of them are definitely not safe for work. You should not have your children in the room probably ever listening to Nicky's podcast, but like that sort of level of Nicky has that insight that a lot of us don't have because Nicky played the game for so long and he knows what questions to ask. And actually with Nicky, like he did a really good podcast with Dr. Vic Silverwood, and like strange enough, for all the stories Nicky has done, it's actually, in my opinion, his best ever podcast because he goes in not knowing and just asks all the questions that most of us would probably ask in the same position, like why does this do that, and why are they talking about this, and what does this mean? And actually, it showed Nicky's growth from the very, very beginning of 4,000 accounting to that point where he's gotten better as an interviewer as a result, because he just went in and just gave very, very honest questions and therefore got really honest answers back. But there's so much stuff out there. And I think, there's a bunch of people who I think probably should do some stuff that won't do it because they don't want to. So that's absolutely fine as well. But yeah, just hunt it out. Go hunting and ask people for recommendations. Although, like, Wednesdays, what's current stream on YouTube? Because we go through every game of the NIHL. So if you like Billingham, we definitely talk about Billingham a lot and the particular applicants we're going to need for Ian Brown's goals by the end of the season.
Just before
he's going to need his own segment.
Yeah, 100%, Jono. We get a segment on here most weeks, that's for sure.
Big question. Playing commentary this year, because that's the big kind of what if. Streatham had that with Solway. Oh, there was no Ryan Watt and no Vanya Antonov. What happens if they play? But we saw what happened. So that was the big what if for me last year. Yeah. Ian Brown was obviously because he'd broken his wrist at that point, hadn't he? He wasn't fit.
Collarbone,
yeah,
whatever it was. But yeah,
upper body injury.
There was the big what if, right?
Yeah.
For everybody. And now you have him, because what's he on now? 42?
49 league.
Right, yeah. So even more ridiculous number of goals, right? What if full power everybody in Coventry this year, probably, because there's a high chance Billingham are going to make it to Sheffield, so everyone's still going to be around. What happens? Yeah. How does Streatham potentially shut down what could be like 65 goal Austin Matthews numbers Ian Brown come into the weekend, right?
Don't say that. His ego will get even bigger.
No, he can.
It's one of his idols. I can tell you that one.
You can have an ego when you score that many goals. Yeah. It doesn't matter the level.
What I will say on it is, if we make it this year, I can guarantee you we will bring it.
Yeah, I think
a few of the lads got off the ice. Yeah, I think a few of the lads got off the ice, scratching their head, saying, "What if?" There's a couple of what ifs when they got off the ice in Coventry last season. Yeah, I think one or two of them said we will be back.
I think a few people got a little bit cross as well, because I think I can't remember whether it was Gary or Ben who'd asked, "Oh, what would have happened if Blackburn had made it?" Well, if I was full of straw, I'd be a scarecrow, right? Didn't matter. So but yeah, there certainly was a lot of what ifs about it. I was a little, I did this sort of piece that was kind of split sides of that game. I spoke to JJ Pitchley of Streatham, who scored a penalty shot in that final. I spoke to Michael Elder as well, and Mike's is a fascinating guy, really, really smart. And I think there was kind of a bit of a tacit acceptance, especially as well because I think in that game, I don't think Billingham kind of believed that they were in it for a bit, and then suddenly realised, oh, no, we can score. And then kind of got solved in the third period a little bit, and they kind of sort of blew that 5-minute major power play that they had. But I think it'll be a much different kettle of fish this year for Billingham, because if they end up in that situation again, not only do they know that they earned it there, but that they can they really beat Streatham at what? Call it 80%. Call it 80%. So there are a couple of guys missing, or a couple of kids who played up from the Buccaneers. So we'll call it 80% for want of argument, right? But what do you get if you get 100% out of it? What happens then? And you think as well, like obviously Tommy Brown was in net last year, had a nightmare of a start, lets in the first shot on goal. Mark Turnbull's been lights out for you guys this year. Different kettle of fish potentially if he's in the net now, a full strength side. What can you do? Because that Billingham side took about 25-30 minutes to think, oh, we are actually in this game.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do at full sprint? There's the thread to pull out for me. I love, as Craig will tell you, I love a good story. So
I think one of the big things now as well, it's like Ben Greenhouse 19 now, he was 18 last year. Tommy Spraggan 19, 20. He's had time with Leeds, he's had time with Hull. All those really younger guys who are a bit naive or all that, a little bit year older, all a little bit more responsible. So I think we can do a lot more damage next year, well, this year, if we make it.
I think the thing that you have to take into account as well is that yes, that Streatham side has had quite a significant setback. But like Craig mentioned as well, what's the response to that? Because they turned around and beat Chelmsford last week at home. Having had what happened to them happen the week before, they shut them out the following week. And you've got Streatham are this really interesting mix of youth and experience. And having won a national title, Ben Payne kind of doubled down on that defensively responsible element as well. And I think it's if the thing is that if they sit for want of a thing, if they sit Sam Waller on Ian Brown and keep Ian Brown quiet for 60 minutes, who's the next man up? Where does that next bit come from? Is it is it Chris Sykes and his ridiculous amount of points he scored for Billingham over the years, or is it Michael Elder, or does Lucas Dowd will pop up and do something? Is it the final hurrah for Tommy Spraggan? Because sorry, Billingham fans, I don't think Tommy Spraggan's back as a star next season, or at least he shouldn't be if anybody has any common sense. So I think it'll be a much closer game though this year. If we get Streatham Billingham 2, I think it's going to be a lot closer.
Yeah. Well, that remains to be seen in the future. The season running kind of starts after the new year, so the drive to Sheffield for the Steel City Showdown, and then the following week for the Coventry playoffs. It's been great having you on, Anthony. It's been a great chat covering all sorts of topics. Just before we let you go, where can people find your online genius if they so wish to do so?
Genius is probably overstating it ever so slightly. bannersonthewall.wordpress.com is the website. The thousandth article, Grand Ideas, where I tried to fix British hockey with a couple of ideas that I think are really good, but everyone will probably hate, is up there. And the latest piece is the two things I do on there are Banners on the Road. So I do kind of an in-depth look back at every game that I've gone to that previous week. And then Hockey Stories, which are kind of sort of long form bits and pieces. Some of them are more kind of prose article, some are more interviews. So the latest piece is up now. It's called Remember the North, the State of Scottish Ice Hockey, where I sit down with Jamie Thompson, who's Scottish Ice Hockey's head of hockey operations, I believe is his job title for SIH, and he's also the assistant coach of the Solway Sharks. So we touch on women's hockey, juniors, the SNL. We touch on Solway. So basically, I try to kind of do a lot of random bits. X at Banners OTW, search Banners on the Wall in a few places, and search Banners on the Wall on YouTube. Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. What's Current Stream? We will talk about every single game from across all 5 leagues in the National Ice Hockey League structure. We leave nobody out. From Leeds to Lee Valley, everybody gets a look in. Yeah,
I would strongly recommend people to give it a follow. I say online, your Twitter, your What's Current Stream, certainly for a weekly roundup across the NIHL. And a final question: if there's a Palmer up here with your name on, can we get you the Teesside anytime soon?
Teesside is a little bit of a stretch this season, but what I will say is there is a game in a place called Queensferry in March. You might have to keep an eye out for me. You might just have to keep an eye out for me, Billingham fans. I might be lurking around.
I think there's a supporters bus going to that one.
Yeah, there's going to be a big Billingham contingent on a supporters coach, so they'll certainly hunt you out in a good way. But no, it's been great having you on, Anthony. Thank you very much for your time tonight. And we'll point people towards Banners on the Wall for all his online content. Enjoy the rest of the season, and no doubt we'll catch up with you at a playoff venue somewhere near you soon. Thanks, Anthony.
Thanks, guys.
And there he is, Anthony Russell. A good chat. Many topics covered. And I say we obviously we've spoken to Anthony for a while, and he kind of being in that position with no team of his own. He's kind of following everybody and anybody. So it's good to listen to kind of an outside view on our division and the division as a whole, Carol.
Yeah, I mean we've been there, unfortunately. As hockey fans, it's a nomadic experience when you've got no team to go, no team to call your own. It's hard. A lot of us have been there, but you know, he's made some impressive gains with that time that he's got, and it's the output that he does is kind of a one-stop shop. If you need to know about any of the tiers in NIHL in one place, then kind of he's the only guy that's doing it. So yeah, credit to him for, and I think the strides that he's made into commentating as well, especially down in Guildford, it's all strings to the hockey bow, as it were. So yeah. Well, maybe we'll all get to catch up with him in person in a few weeks' time over in D-side.
No, it sounds promising. And Jono, what he said about kind of the podcasters and the fan media kind of pushing each other up rather than pushing each other down, kind of supporting and kind of helping everybody to grow. That was a good point you made.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, watching Anthony's show on YouTube, I think I'll recommend it for everyone because you can take part in the chat, and that's one of the big things that he does promote. Like you can all chat. Got my clogs ticking to whether I do one. Obviously, you've got him covering all the national, but doesn't really touch the north much. Obviously, we had Ben last week. I spoke to Ben a few times about it, trying to get ideas. With 0 pucks given, and you have Macca's Talk Hockey. Everything was south or national, and it's where my idea came for just to do something for the north, not because I wanted to be a name or I wanted recognition. It's just to tell people about our great league that we have. We've seen how fantastic it is this year, how close it's been. We just want to tell people about hockey here, and we're all trying to do the same thing. We're trying to push this sport in this country to be one of the best it can be. You know, we've got a tough job. Football will never be overtaken. Cricket's there, rugby's there. And if we can get ice hockey spoke about with those 3 sports, we've come a long way. And that's all I do. We've just got to promote each other's stuff, help each other out when we come asking for it, and as long may it continue, and hopefully more people come along.
Yeah, no, 100%. So thanks to Anthony for jumping on. I say we'll definitely recommend people to follow him on his blog, bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, his YouTube channel, as Jono says, on a Wednesday night. So well worth a recommend. We'll take another break there, and we'll be back wrapping up things, looking ahead to this week's game and any other business for your Billingham Stars. This is the official podcast of your Billingham Town Council sponsored Billingham Stars. It's Starcast. Welcome back to Starcast, and once again a big thank you to Anthony Russell. Great chat. On a lot of topics there about the NIHL and UK hockey with that Anthony, and so well worth a visit to his website, bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. And as Jono and I both said, listen to his weekly show on YouTube on a Wednesday night as well for all sorts of hockey content there. So thanks to Anthony, and we'll see him again in the season, I'm sure. Back in the final segment of Starcast, we'll do what we normally do and look around the results from last weekend and in our division and the league table. So we'll bring up the England ice hockey graphic. So Saturday's results: Sheffield 2, Whitley 4, Solihull 4, Hull 3 after overtime, Widnes 2, Blackburn 6, and then on the Sunday, Whitley 5, Solihull 9, Billingham, Sheffield we know about, Blackburn 6, Leeds 3, and then we're talking about defence and possibly absence thereof. Nottingham 10, D-side 5. Before we look at the league tables, do you want to talk about any results? Carol, do you want to start?
I'll go. A few things that I took from this weekend. Firstly, I think Hull Jets need a massive doff of cap for Saturday's result at Solihull, because they turned up horrendously under strength. I think they had 11 skaters, 2 of which had never played for the Jets before, and 1 of which was drafted in from Coventry Blaze too, I believe. So they had an umpteen of their own players either unavailable or ill or injured or suspended. And to go to Solihull and get that kind of, well, to take a point, don't forget they get a point for that.
Yeah.
Is I think that's quite something. I think that's a result to be proud of. So kudos to the Jets for that one. Obviously, Solihull returned to form the following night and whooped our friends up the road. Nicholas Otterson had himself a party, I think. And then the other result that's I don't know if anybody caught on YouTube after our game on Sunday is that defenceless D-side Dragons continue to utterly confound everybody by conceding 10 in Nottingham. I watched that game. Well, obviously not all of it, but I watched a good part of it. And their discipline's poor. Their defence is very poor. And I don't know, once they'd fallen behind, they just didn't seem to have any game plan to get back. Mm-hmm. And they've got superstar Jake skating around like a headless chicken, not really knowing what his line mates are doing. They are the kind of the conundrum on the D side this year. Who knows what's gone on with that team? But on paper, they are not that team. But they keep putting up results like that.
Yeah. No, it was one I didn't see it live, but it was when I saw the score come through. It was kind of a double take moment. Jono, anything from you from the weekend?
No, just that Nottingham D-side game. I think they took a battering early in the season, and we said something like that. This team cannot get beat by that kind of scoreline, and this is one of them. And I don't know whether it's someone. I don't know if it was in a private group chat that we're all in. Someone said, "Do these guys train or do they just play games?" And I just thought, you know what? You could be bob on. Maybe they don't train, because the defense is. There must be 6 lads on the street they can pick up who can do a job at the moment, because every week it's 5 or more goals conceded. No matter, even when they win games, it's 7-6 or 8-7. It's just absolutely crazy. The coach must be just banging his head off the wall, going, I don't know what to do with them at the back end. But yeah, like Carl said, this team is not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the box score, I've got Joe Scott's NIHL stats. His great work continues on the box scores. They're up on nihlstats.wordpress.com on a Monday or very latest on a Tuesday. So the full box scores from all of the games in all of the divisions. So that one, the 10-5 game, Lions 4 goals for Alex Rushby. Alex Padlock, Carol's on about Otterson having himself a party. Alex Padlock had a party, 1 goal, 5 assists. Just dishing it out for everybody and his wife to score. D-sides goals, just ones each from Gary Simpson scored, Ross Kennedy, Jared Dickinson, Jake Wachowski, 1 goal, 1 assist. He's got 32 goals for the season, but it's the back end, like you say, where they're giving up. Matt Croyle played 2 periods, give up 7 on 29 shots. That's not what they're saying Matt Croyle for. So that won't all be down to him. Obviously, if the defense in front of him. So we'll see what the D-side Dragons do for the rest of the season.
Only team in the top 6 to have conceded 100 goals. 121.
I wish to bring in this here stat, Jono. So he has the league table, so you can see that Stars still top. Hawks have got 1 game in hand, so it's 9 points with 1 game in hand. Blackburn are trailing. Then Solihull in 3rd, they've now qualified for the playoffs. D-side in 4th, 121 goals conceded, and just 136 goals. So a fairly close goal difference for a 15-9 record. So that tells you where the issues are out there. Hull Jets up in the 5th, Whitley 6, Nottingham 7, Leeds 8, Widnes 9, Sheffield 10. But as we said the last couple of weeks, that 8, 9, 10 they're playing each other a lot over the next few weeks. So that's going to be the race to look at the bottom of the table for sure. And as we've said, Solihull, the battle to get the points on Saturday, but they've been in a bit of a run of form as well. So they're closing in on trying to secure third, and who knows what happens with them in the postseason if they get on a run with their recent addition. So still a lot of hockey to be played. We look at the fixtures for next weekend. As Jono mentioned, there's a lot of good games still to come. 4 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday, and some good ones as well. So quick look at the full fixture list, and then we'll talk a bit more about Billingham's game on Sunday. So the NIHL North Division 1 on Saturday, February the 1st, a brand new month, the penultimate month of the regular season. Blackburn against Deeside. Then it's Solihull, another Saturday home game. Solihull against Nottingham. Widnes take on the Hull Jets. And it's Leeds versus Sheffield. So that's a huge one at the bottom end. And then on Sunday, again, it's Sheffield-Nottingham. Whichever division, whichever competition, Sheffield-Nottingham is always a game to watch. So Sheffield Scimitars, Nottingham Lions at 5:10 on a Sunday, because why not? And then obviously the final game, Billingham and Leeds at the Forum on Sunday at 5:30. Jono, just before we go on to our game, you said there's games to look at. Leeds, Sheffield, Nottingham again. That 8, 9, 10. As we said, they're going to play each other a lot over the next few weeks, and that's
yeah. When we were just talking about Sheffield earlier on, I said if we've got some games where they can really get themselves right back into it with the additions that they've added to the roster. And to be fair, if they come out this weekend with 6 points, I think they really are right in it. If they lose both games, then it's probably could be too much to ask. But yeah, a huge weekend for Sheffield and for Leeds as well, because obviously they want to cement that 8th spot.
Yeah. Anything from you, Carol, before we look at our game in particular?
No, I think it is kind of a focus on the bottom of the table this weekend. Leeds are going to come to us after having a battle themselves on the Saturday. So, I guess it's a bit like when you watch the football towards the end of the season and you start looking at those little battles at the bottom. It's kind of a little bit of a focus this weekend. So we shall see. We shall see what transpires.
So we'll have a look at our game coming up then. Sunday, 5:30, Forum Ice Arena. Another Sunday home game in league action for your Billingham Stars. Leeds Knights coming in for the latest league game. As I said, we've seen them a few times. Brand new to the league this season. A lot of good prospects. So we're going to have to give them the respect. And the games haven't been, although we did score 10 on one of the games, the games haven't been all of our own way, and we've had to work hard to get the points, Carol.
Yeah, Leeds have been a bit of a kind of a funny team to keep an eye on this season. But understandably, it's the first season. They're getting their feet, sorting themselves out, and so to be honest, it was to be expected that they would be a bit inconsistent. And I think from the games that I've seen, in patches, they look like they can match anybody. And they had a really, they pushed Blackburn pretty hard last Sunday in Blackburn. So, I think that game was tied at 3-3 until the third period. So, they're well capable of giving teams those hard games. But the flip side of that is I kind of hark back to the away game that we had down in Leeds, when I think it might have been Jono who said, this looks like a team that have never played together ever. They've just been chucked on the ice, and they were skating around like a junior football team, all chasing the puck. So they are having that kind of a season where 1 week they're really, really good, and the next possibly not. So I guess I think a lot actually on Sunday is going to depend on how the game goes for them on Saturday, because that is a really big game for them. And I think if they get the points from that and they play well, and it's a big morale booster, I think we just need to be a little bit on guard on Sunday. That's not to say I don't think we're going to win, because I think at this point of the season, we have to be realistic and say we have to win that game. There's no two ways about it. But I think if Leeds do the business on Saturday, I think we do just have to be a little bit careful. They're going to have the tails up. Going to have half an eye on. I mean, Nottingham look a little bit out of reach at this point in the table for them, but certainly they're going to have an eye on securing that last playoff spot. So we just need to be a little bit careful.
Yeah, no, 100%. And some of the players, Jono, that we need to look out for, and they've been doing the business for the Knights so far this season. Owen Dell, Michael Deneko, and Fritz Heinzel as well. They've been the main contributors when the Knights have performed, and we're going to have to watch those guys on Sunday night.
Absolutely, yeah. I think there was kids that I mentioned on my own podcast that are going to have bright futures ahead of them, and they're certainly ones to look out for this year, and the paid dividends. I think it's Deneko, Dell, Heinzel, they're the top scorers at the moment, and they are for a reason. They're young, fearless kids. They're back their own ability, and they want to show their talents off to the parent club to say, look, I can step up to that top level. And on that side of it, I think it's going to be a very good game for us next week. I think it'll be a much better game than last weekend, I'm afraid to say. So we will have to step it up, and that's what I want us to see us do. I want us to see us to step it up, grab the game by the scruff, as I say, and take it to Leeds and put a dominant performance in and show why we're top of the league, show them why we want to win the league and we want to retain our title and why we're the best team. But we should certainly keep a sharp eye on some of these kids, because they will come out as hard, and like they say, they're fearless.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I say we need to be ready to start. And talking about start, we've mentioned that obviously Netmind and other clubs, we're very fortunate to have Jacob and Mark kind of playing well this season. And as you said, Jacob came back in the lineup after a few games off, and Mark's been kind of lights out the last few weeks as well. So whoever Foz decides to put in the net, Carol, we know they've got the confidence of the guys, so the guys can just concentrate on doing what they've been doing all season.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting to the point where this is a really tough call now for the coaches. Jono said it last week, you ride your hot goalie, but at the same time, you need both of them to be logging the minutes, because you never know at any point when you're going to need them. So it was good to see Jacob getting back into the net last week, getting his eye back in, as it were. Who do they put in there this week? I wouldn't like to make that call. It's a tricky one, but it's good to see the pair of them pushing each other. It's a tricky decision, but it's the decision that you want to have to take. You don't want to have one goalie far outperforming the other one, because you want a tandem. You want two guys both pushing hard for that number one spot. So let's see who the coaches go for on Sunday.
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting to see. And in terms of the crowd coming in, Jono, another Sunday home game. We had a good turnout for obviously coming back from the cup weekend. Some new, still, I've said it before, still boggles the mind. We're still getting newbies. We had the scout group in this week as well, which was fantastic. We saw their photo on socials. Just putting the call out there. You said yourself last week for fans to bring somebody to try and increase the fan base even more, to give the guys the support they need and deserve going down the stretch this season.
Absolutely. The way this team performing, they deserve absolutely every bit of attention that it gets, and they deserve all of 770 of those seats full to the brim, shouting their name or cheering on the team. In my mind, astounds how we don't get 1,000 people in every week. It's a great game. It's great entertainment. We're a big region, Teesside. We're just got to get that name out. It's great to see new people every week. From the sports club point of view, new people come to say hello every week and asking questions and trying to learn more about the team and about the game itself, and how do they go about joining sports clubs, and how do they go about getting behind the team more, whether it's following them on the road. And I don't know, Carol will be able to say as well, like we sit at away games now where we used to just be 10 of us all having a conversation, and we're asking each other, who's that person with the Stars top, and nobody has an idea. And it's absolutely fantastic to see home and away, new people coming to games and introducing themselves, which is even better because we are a big family. We're great to get on with, and we're all there for a common thing, and that's to be entertained by this great team.
Yeah, no, brilliant. And I say Sunday 5:30, Forum Ice Arena. Bring yourself, bring a friend. It doesn't have to be a friend, just bring somebody. Give the guys the support they deserve. Stars against Leeds Knights. NIHL North action continues Sunday night at the Forum. Hope you can join us for that one. We'll leave the preview there and we'll just roll into any other business. One of us has got a list to read, Jono.
Yeah. As you just mentioned, the Supporters Club. Yeah, we've got a few things going on. Had a few things going on. I will start with you brought it up there, the scouts visiting on Sunday. So great, huge thank you for them to come in, and they really enjoyed it. They're really excited to get on the ice and have a photo taken with the team. And I think we'll probably gain a few extra fans there. And sorry to the parents if you're getting bugged this weekend to go to another game, but it was great to have them in attendance. This weekend we have another scout group attending. It's the second Billingham Scout group, so we can't wait to welcome them. And yeah, if you're in charge of a community club and you want to come down, please get in touch, and we'll certainly get something organised for you. As for Supporters Club business, cup final bus. It's a big bus. It has a toilet. It's got everything you want there to get you there to Blackburn in one piece. We do actually only have 11 seats left. So if you want to join the team in Blackburn for the first leg of the cup final, please get in touch, come to the table, put your name down, pay your deposit. We're also running a bus to D-side in March. Same again, come and speak to us, get your name put down, pay your deposit, pay it in full, whichever. Again, not many seats left on that bus either. So there's a lot of fans wanting to travel on these buses, a lot of new names I've never heard of. So thank you very much to you guys for wanting to get on these, support the Supporters Club and getting on these buses to follow the lads. And we will have new merch this weekend as well, I believe. So all things good on the Supporters Club side of things.
Yeah. It's February on Saturday as well. So will there be a vote incoming for their Player of the Month?
Yes, I believe I need to just confirm it, but it's either going out tonight or tomorrow, or the vote's going out.
I've just had my email.
Oh, there you go. Then there you go. It's just gone out. It's just gone out. So even though you're getting this at 8 o'clock in the morning, you'd have got it last night. Yeah.
So the votes will be counted this week. So does that mean are we presenting on Sunday, all being well?
We will be presenting all being well at the weekend.
Super duper. So again, another difficult choice for your Stars Player of the Month, but we'll see who the Supporters Club choose. Carol, we had Mikey's playlist on Sunday even.
I was chuffed because I actually knew some tunes. It's getting quite sad now that I'm judging these playlists on whether I've heard of any of them. And fortunately, Mike chose tunes that I've actually heard of, so I was quite pleased.
Yeah, no, it was good. So again, point people to our Spotify channel. If you search Billingham Stars IHC on Spotify, all of the player playlists are there from this season. Can't be that many left to do, so we'll see who picks for this weekend. Just on media notes, the interviews from Sunday, as we record this on Tuesday, they're not up. By the time you've watched this on Wednesday, they will be. Again, a few technical issues getting the footage sorted, but the interviews from Sunday, we had Stephen Foster and Michael Elder, who was man of the match on Sunday, but also was going to speak as captain anyways for a kind of a catch up midway through the season. So listen to Foz and Mikey on Billingham Stars TV. But I think that's pretty much it for this edition, unless I've missed anything obvious. He says, check your notes. No, nothing's happened in the last half hour. Quick check of social medias.
No, I've just done that.
Yeah. So that's it. We'll call it a halt to proceedings there. Thank you to everybody for listening and watching and following us here on Starcast, your official podcast of the Billingham Town Council sponsor, Billingham Stars. And we're here every week throughout the season, talking all things Billingham and beyond. Big thank you to Anthony Russell from Banners on the Wall for his chat in the middle segment as well. Again, a reminder, give him a follow, Banners OTW on Twitter or bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. Well worth a follow there as well. Jono, he didn't mention Stick to the Pod, but Anthony did. So Stick to the Pod will be out this week as well. a more in-depth look at NIHL North 1 and 2. So give Jono a listen as well. And we'll see you on Sunday, all being well, for the visit of the Leeds Knights. But for now, from Carol and from Jono, it's goodbye from the Billingham Stars podcast. This has been Starcast.
Thank you for being part of this episode of Starcast, the official podcast of your Billingham Stars. Remember to like and share this episode, send a review when you can, and follow us on social media for the very latest news and to find out when the next Starcast will drop.